Hey, how's it going? This video is coming up a little later than I wanted because things went awry. So, I had planned on walking through the process of creating the door object, doing the coding, and then implementing it into the game. You see right here, this is pretty much the door, but this is not how I had wanted it to work because I wanted, like you see, I had the common actions here. I wanted it to do a few things, but it didn't work at all. So I had to completely redo my logic from what I had initially wanted. So just a quick basic. We made before we made the animation for the door. Let's see, pull it up right here. Just right now there's like the idle that we had I think we had made the opening animation and then just the idle being open, and then off camera I had made one for it being open and closing because that just a long process. And so then after that I created the object, assigned it to the metal door animation. I didn't really change the object priority yet. I will mess with that later when I start messing around with scenes. And then I assigned it to the group of my background objects. Because I have a few neutral groups that shouldn't be able to take damage from attacks. And I made one for NPCs and one for background objects. I probably could have used them both at the same thing, but it's fine. And then uh, I allowed wall detection impacts for objects for player and enemy groups. We'll see how that goes. I might take this away, but I did that, and then I made it to where if it was affected by gravity, the default it would be affected by default tiles. But for most background objects, I make it so they're not affected by gravity, so I can easily place them around different areas or something like that, and not have to worry about it accidentally falling through the map or something like that. If I have a bad interaction, it's just like a failsafe for me. And that's just quickly you go down to here to where is it? The bottom gravity effects. I set that to 0. Then here I made 4 different actions, just a simple loop. It's idle, like the idle closed, from here, opening, and then from after the opening action finishes, it goes to open, and then after the open action finishes, it goes to closing, or if the parameters are met, we go to closing and closed. I had planned on having it to where it would, if a character was out of range when it was opening, it would save what animation frame it was on, jump to that animation frame, and then close it. But I couldn't get it to work right, so we ignored that. And to get this to work, this object has a field of view, which is just literally player near. I set it to right here. I made a connection point at the bottom of the door, and so there's going to be there's a radius that goes out about I think it was 160, 180 pixels or three blocks length, about as tall as the door from the outside from this connection point. So when the player or the enemy approaches right here, the door will automatically open up because it's the future. And so go back to here. This is our field of view. It's 192 pixels is where it's at. The connection point. This is use connection point for where it's going to start. Is right there. I've made it invisible, but we'll quickly show it real quick. And then if we play it, Hopefully I'm on the right scene. Should still be the same. Right there. See it right there? And then when I walk into it, it opens up. Now, here, this black box, this is a tile that I created. So when I walk over this tile, it activates, it sets my area detection to 1. And when my area detection is 1, I have a invisible sort of check that's always going to check to see if what the player's area detection is. If it's 1, it shows this button prompt. And so when I do what it says up in F, that will start this animation. And while this animation is active, it turns on a switch that says can enter door. And so I don't think I have the portal set up. It should. Yep, there we go. So I'm assuming you just have to walk away from the door and go back in, and it resets it. Yeah. So whenever this animation happens, it turns on the switch, can enter door, and so there is a portal here this whole time, but this portal will not activate unless the switch is on. The switch only activates if the player's area detection is 1, and that only changes if the area detection is 1 and it's doing this specific animation. This specific animation right here. The enter a door animation. You can only do this enter door animation when your area detection is 1. So it's just a few checks to make sure you don't accidentally like go in and out of a door when you don't mean to. You have to consciously press up to enter the door. I had initially wanted it to be when the player was standing in front of this door, I had a second field of view that would set the player's area detection to 1, but I could not get it to work. I don't know why. I don't know what I was doing wrong. So I just went back to using the tile. And so then, now that I have this tile, I will probably have to use background objects to go over the tile to fill in the darkness to make sure that it actually fills out and doesn't look weird, which is fine. I could use this as a boon to do different colored background objects to represent like you're either going outside or you're going into a building or something like that. It could be fairly useful. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll just quickly go back. So yeah, the logic here when it's opening, so it's idle closed, open. So like the from idle close to opening, it's looking for any of these objects, and then to go to closing, it's the exact same thing as this check, except for you click this symbol select to not equal, like when there's no enemy and no player. So this one's a little bit different. This one is just looking for anything to pop up there. This one, all of the conditions need to be met for it to actually start closing. And then if we go back to our player, it's a lot of jumping around. Sorry. Here, you can only go from the idle animation to the entering door animation when you press up and Y and your area detection equals 1. And then you go one more thing to the transitions, portals, right here. These are the portals right here, like again, but they only activate when can enter door is on. Can enter door only turns on when the player is in the entering door animation, and you can only go to the enter door animation when your area detection is 1. which if you go to the doors, subfloors doors, here your gimmick, not it's not the gimmick setting, just regular settings, assign number to the area detection is 1. So that as long as I have this tile here, I can make the character do the like enter the door animation, and if there's a portal there, the player can go through that portal. It's convoluted. I'm sure there's a way simpler way to do it, but this was like my attempt to make it modular so that way I didn't have to make a new object or something like that for every single door. I could just set them to the same parameters and just have the portal make sure that it was just looking for the player to do this animation, essentially. So that's it. Have a good one.